Hello everyone, it's Edna Keep here live with Free Coaching Friday. So today I want to talk about how much you should renovate a property. That's some of the questions that I get sometimes with dealing with students because they're buying properties and they're not sure how much to renovate. And you don't know how many times I've seen an absolute beautiful property in a really crappy neighborhood. And you know, some people will think that you build the most beautiful property that everyone will want it. Well, you know what? They probably will want it, but they won't want to pay any more rent for it. So you have to be really careful about that. Just recently, we bought some properties out of town. And of course, your name gets around as somebody who'll buy. So somebody reached out to us and said they had another property in that area that was for sale. And would I be interested in looking at it? And I said, oh, absolutely, we would. Send me the financials on it. And so he sends over the financials, and I look at them, and I think, oh yeah, this is right in line with what we have, same rents, everything. He said, so are you interested? And I said, yeah, actually, I have somebody coming up there this weekend. I'll send them by to have a look. And so he says, oh, by the way, my price is such and such. Does that still interest you? And at that point I went, oh, well, actually, no, it doesn't interest me because that price is too high for, well, I just said, no, that's kind of out of our price range. I think he was asking like $100 a door when we've been paying around $75 a door. And he says, oh, well, my buildings are so much, or my opinion, but my buildings are so much nicer. And I said, yeah, but your rents aren't. And that's something that people get caught up in a lot. Like, my buildings are so much nicer. And you know, even when I started out, my partner would take me into these houses and I would go, oh my God, like I wouldn't live here. And he goes, Edna, you have to get over that. You won't live here. You don't have to live here. He said, you rented back when you were in your 20s. You probably lived in similar places, never gave it any thought. But now, yeah, your lifestyle's different. Even my kids, we'd take them to some rental places. We're kind of building our house around the same time that we started our rental business. And so when we were taking our kids around, we were showing them all these show homes. They're going, oh, this is nice. And we're getting ideas on how to build our house. Then we started showing them the rental properties, and they're going, well, Mom, this isn't very nice. I don't like this place. And they'd look at the grass was brown and the, trees were wrecked. There was garbage in the yard, and we don't. And I go, no, you're not ever going to live here. So that's something you have to be really careful. We've seen people in the height of the market here in Regina building the nicest duplexes in the crappiest neighborhoods. And I had realtors take me through them, and they go, oh, Edna, this is a great deal for you. You could get this much for rent. I think it was $1,300 up and $1,200 down, blah, blah, blah. And I went, really? You think so? You buy it. I know this area. You're not going to get that, at least not consistently. So we didn't buy. We didn't buy any of those brand new, beautiful duplexes in the area when they were first built. And I know they got really good prices on lots and stuff. And over the last few years, those same people have come to me trying to sell their properties, and they're a mess. So yeah, they were beautiful to start with, but in that area, you don't attract the nicest tenants. So your beautiful properties don't stay beautiful very long. So when you talk about renovating a property that you purchase, you have to keep that in mind. Just because you put in a granite countertop doesn't mean you're going to get $100 more for rent. So be very careful on that. You might put in a $600 light fixture that you would put in your own home and think how beautiful that is. It's beautiful, but at that price range, people are really more interested in what they're going to be paying for rent than how beautiful their place is. So I want you to keep that in mind too. So you of course you have to do what's right for you, and you know, if you're in the right area, people will pay for that. They'll pay for the granite countertops and the fancy light fixtures. They'll pay a little bit more, but even then you're not going to get $400 or $500 a month more because you spent another $5,000 on making your property beautiful. You might get another $100 more. So you have to weigh out those costs, and that's the part where I see people making big mistakes. Too much renovations, and you know what? The risk is that you just won't get your money back out of it. Now, I did make myself some notes here to make sure that I covered it all. And the other thing too, so with houses, your house is going to be compared to the one next door, the one down the street, the one in the neighborhood. So if you make yours like the nicest house in the neighborhood, people will want it. If you're selling it, people will want it, but they won't want to pay what you think they're going to pay. You know, I've seen people even build high-end homes out in our area. And I mean, the workmanship is absolutely beautiful. Like, they bought it to live there. But you know, their selling price sometimes is unrealistic for what the market is asking. And even now, I advise my clients, you know, in the high-end acreages that we live in, don't use it as your retirement plan, because you're going to be sorely disappointed. Because when other people are looking to spend over $1 million to build or to get a place, most of the time they're going to want to build what they want. They're not going to, you know, your idea and their idea is going to be two different things. So to think that your property is going to be worth double in, you know, 10 or 15 or 20 years, and you're going to have all the you'll have all the mortgage pay down, but to think it's going to double, that's probably unrealistic. There's a lot more people out there nowadays. Well, always. There's a lot more people looking at the properties in the 300, 350, 250 to 350 range than there'll ever be at your high-end acreages. So where you might get 100 people looking at a $350,000 property, one of those people might, or one person out of 100 might look at your high-end acreage, and then probably a tenth of those will actually buy. So that's another thing to really be cognizant of. Now, one thing that I do highly suggest is when you've renovated a property and fixed it up nice, like basic but nice, so you new paint, new flooring, paint the cupboards, some, you know, nice but cheap light fixtures and new faucets, sinks, stuff like that. Like, it looks like $1 million. Stage it. You will get a better price through staging it than you will putting in a $600 or I don't even know what granite countertops cost, $1,200 granite countertop. You'll get more out of your property if you stage it, because a lot of people, myself included, when I walk into a building and it's just vacant, it's not near as appealing to me as something that's been staged. You put some, you know, and again, it doesn't have to be high-end stuff. We just recently staged an apartment building to get renters in there, and in some cases, like, it's just a lumpy couch, but you put some cushions in the right place and all that kind of stuff. And then when they move in, you move all that stuff out, so they're not using it anyway. Now, recently we put one of our properties up as an Airbnb, and my stager said, well, should I put that lumpy couch in there? It would sell it to you for cheap. And I went, oh no. I said, that works for staging because nobody's going to sit on it. But when you're moving somebody in for an Airbnb, you need a really comfortable bed, because they're going to compare it to a hotel, and nice, comfortable furniture. You want it to look nice, not spend a fortune, but you want it to look nice and be comfortable. Because if it just looks nice and you got a lumpy old couch there, you know, people aren't going to be happy with that, especially, you know, in a case like that property would rent one bedroom at $800 a month, and we're getting $1,600 as Airbnb. So you have to be really careful with that. And you know, when you stage a property like that, take those pictures, and that's what you use after you've destaged it. You still use those pictures so that you can show people what that unit could actually look like when they move into it, you know, with the right furniture and stuff like that. And you know, even point out to them, when you're staging, if they're asking, well, your furniture in here was so nice, where'd you get it? A lot of times we can pick up used leather furniture on Kijiji for like a quarter of the price that you would pay for it brand new. And when you're staging a unit or renting it as an Airbnb, my advice again is use leather furniture or the vinyl look-alike furniture, because they might have a dog, they might spill coffee, and you can just wipe it with its leather. If it's not, then you got the cleaning expense. So yeah, it's cheaper, but it's cheaper for a reason. Okay, so when you're buying a home in an area, you might say, well, my neighbor just sold his house for $400,000, but the realtor going through your house is going to say, yeah, but he's got a big garage. You don't have a garage. Yeah, but he's got a second bathroom on the main floor and you only have one. Or he could say like, yeah, but there's a second bathroom downstairs and you don't have one. Like all that different kind of stuff really adds up to increasing the value of your property. And yet if you use a realtor that really knows their stuff, they can tell you even the dollar amount. So they have a garage, you don't have a garage. That's $30,000 less, or a heated garage, or different stuff like that. So that kind of stuff really, really matters when you're selling or renovating or buying houses. Now, a little bit different if you're buying apartment buildings, because apartment buildings are valued on your income and your expenses. So what's left over? So all your renovation costs, they generally take those out of the balance sheet when they're looking at it. So know that too. Most people, when they're getting ready to sell a building, will spend a lot of money on renovations because they want it to look as nice as possible for the new buyers. And that's wise. But the biggest thing they can do is making sure that building's full. And if that building's full, you're going to get way more money for it than if it's 10 or 15 or 25% vacant. And the lenders, that's what they're going to look at. They're going to look at how much rent you collect, how much expenses you have. Like, are you including utilities? So you might think, if I include utilities and I get $1,800 a month rent, say, for a furnished unit or whatever, even just including utilities. Well, if I put that I'm getting $1,300 a month rent, even though it's costing me $250 for utilities, that's what they'll use. They don't. They're smarter than that. They look at all your actual numbers, and if you're getting rent of $1,300 but you're paying the utilities, they knock that off. And they also will use comparables. So we have some areas where we get quite a bit higher rent because we are renting them out as furnished or executive style rentals. And they won't give us credit for the $1,800 a month we're getting. They'll give us credit for $1,200 because that's reasonable. So again, even if you're getting the absolute top dollar, your lender's going to look at comparables too, to know that that what you're doing is not like at a lunch, or they can figure out if you're lying to them too, or if you just like, oh my gosh, I fill this building at $1,800 a month because I bought these guys pizza every day for 6 months. They'll realize that there's other reasons why you might be getting the higher rents. So be really cognizant of that and careful with that. Let's see what else I got. So when you're looking with single family homes, again, remember, average price in the area does matter. When you're buying for yourself, you want to buy the nicest, in the nicest neighborhood that you can afford, and get maybe a cheaper house that you can actually build value in by adding a bathroom downstairs, or deck, or cement sidewalks, or different stuff like that. So the nicest house in the nicest neighborhood is not going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. The cheapest house in the nicest neighborhood will. Make sense? If the property's been neglected, that's another real area that you can step it up. I remember this one time, Warren looked at this house, and it was built in like 1980, 1981, something like that. And they hadn't done a thing since they moved in. As a matter of fact, they hadn't even finished putting the siding on. They didn't have sidewalks. They just had gravel in their driveway, and all the houses around them, oh, they must have been just upset because all the houses around them looked so nice, and they were, they had, the cement driveways, and they had the flowers and the brushes and the nice lawns. And the house, it averages in those areas, we're selling about 350,000. But after these guys looked at it and determined that every single window in the place needed to be fixed, the shingles needed to be replaced, all the doors needed to be replaced, the flooring, the cupboards, all this. Well, they had to buy that property for 200,000 to be able to even make a profit on it. So you've also got to know your numbers. And if you don't know your numbers, get in and get multiple quotes ahead of time, because the person who's selling you that's going to tell you, we have it all the time. I see it all the time with the students. I'm getting this much for rent, maybe say $900 a door, but you could easily get $1,200 a door. You don't know how many times I've been told that personally when we're buying, and how many times that my students have been told that. You know what? If that's the truth, then go fill your boots and come back to me after, because if it was that easy, it would be done already, Now with that said, I do want to point out to you that when people will quibble over $2,000-$3,000 a door, and that part is where it really doesn't matter for your long-term buy and hold. So say, for example, right now in our areas, Regina, Saskatoon, even Edmonton and Calgary, there's some really good deals out there. Like properties are selling for, $100 a door, where, 3-4 years ago, we were paying $115 a door. And people are still complaining because, the vacancy rate's higher. But you know what? Sometimes the deal is not the deal just because it's handed to you. So they go, Edna, here's the deal. You create the deal, so you get it, then you create it. So it might be furnishing your places. It might be executive furnishing your places. It might be Airbnb 2 or 3 of your units, if that makes sense, if it's in a good area. It might be, your active management that helps you. One fellow that I've been talking a lot to just recently in Saskatoon, we have some buildings that are, have been as high as 25% vacancy. And he said, Edna, I've got I think it's 40-unit building. He says, I am 100% full, even through all the crap and everything in the market. And I went, okay, I want you as my partner. Why? Because he's active. He's in there. He's talking to his tenants. He was telling me that he rides around on his bike in that neighborhood, and he'll see people out, maybe shoveling the sidewalk or picking weeds or picking up garbage. And he'll say, hey, where do you live? And they'll go, oh, I live right here. Oh, and are you the caretaker? No, I just like my place to look nice, So if there's garbage laying out, I'll just pick it up. It's no big deal. And he'll say, I want you living in my building. What would it take? And I'm going, that is proactive. That's proactive. That's the kind of people you want managing your building. So I went back to my daughter and I was telling her, because my daughter is my property manager, and I said, you know what, this is working for this other fellow. Why don't we do that? And she says, like hell, mother, I am not going up to strangers on the street to ask them to move into our building. So you know what? She didn't, and we still have a little bit higher vacancy than we probably could have if we had the proactive manager. So again, I keep pushing for it, but I know I wouldn't do it myself, which is why I'm not a property manager. And, maybe she has to hire somebody that would. So those are some of the ways that you can increase the value of your building, and it has nothing to do with renovations. It has to do with the fact that you keep it full. We just had a mastermind this weekend, and one of our partners from Calgary was here, and he said, at one time when it was high vacancy in his area, in order to keep the good tenants that he had, he'd buy them pizza once or twice a month. And so guess what? That's on my property manager's list of things to do. I said, we have good, Ben says, get on your bike, girl. I'm more the person that will tell my daughter or my husband to do it, but I won't do it myself. Isn't that bad? So, What was I going to say? You distracted me. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take a second here and just read through some of my comments. Hey, good morning, Marja from Phoenix. How are you doing? Hi, TJ. Hi, Ben. Hi, Tony. I just heard Dawn on the phone with you this morning when she was at my house. Good morning, Rasna. Good morning, lovely Leela. And good morning, Mark. Hey, did my husband get hold of you? I think he's shy. You might have to phone him. Mark's from Winnipeg, and my husband's down in Winnipeg working on one of our buildings there. Marja says professionally staged is best. Yes, and she's got experience with that. She had a basement suite that wasn't renting. She hired the stager. You know, it cost her $1,200, but then she had a good tenant in there for a really long time. Good morning, Nick. Good morning, Kathy. Brad says, 26 and I'm looking at purchasing my third property, and I couldn't agree more with a lot of things you're saying. Awesome info. Well, thank you so much, Brad. And you know what? We don't even buy houses anymore. We can't. We have, I think, 15 houses in our names, and the bank just won't give us any more money for houses. But that's what we learned when we were buying properties. Good morning, Rob. And Ben says, "Get on your bike, girl." Yeah, Ben, I'll get you as being my partner. You can get on the bike. Good morning, Tamara. How are you? So anyway, does anyone have any questions about that? Because, you know, those are just things that we've learned going through, 11 years of buying properties. It's, even now we're in an overbuilt situation in both Regina and Saskatoon. So we've been competing against some newer buildings that were really nice when they started. But you know what? Now, 2-3 years later, after some tenants have been in there, they're not so nice. So now people are moving back to the more central areas. And I remember somebody telling me that. They said, Edna, the things that you guys got going for you is you've got the really popular neighborhoods. So, you might have a couple rough years, but hang on, they'll start getting filled back up. And that's what we've noticed, especially in Regina. We don't have near as much vacancy in Regina as we do in Saskatoon. So hopefully we're working on a live deal. So I'm back and forth with lawyers. I don't know, my poor ears have been sore lately, back and forth with lawyers all day long, stuff that we're dealing with. So I'm going to sign off, but just remember, don't over renovate your property because it won't always, well, most of the time it won't pay. So have a really, really good weekend, and we'll talk to you all on Monday.